Good evening, everyone. Council will now hold a hearing on an ordinance which, if adopted, would amend the zoning ordinance to establish regulations for message center signs, to allow message center signs in non-residential zoning district on properties with industrial uses located in residential zoning districts, and to prohibit signs with moving images. The ordinance sets forth regulations for message center signs, including limitations on size and brightness. This hearing is your opportunity to express your opinion about the ordinance. I will ask our staff to provide a brief description of the ordinance, and council will then take public comment. So, go ahead, Bill, what do you got?
So as council knows, the reason for this new ordinance or amending our sign ordinance is a lot of our businesses are doing those LED signs that we see around. And each time a business in Horsham wanted to do an LED signs are prohibited under our zoning code. So they would have to go to the zoning hearing board to get relief to have a sign. And 99% of the time, the decision and order and conditions placed upon them by the zoning hearing board were all the same. So what we did was we developed this ordinance, which you introduced, and there's a hearing tonight and for action later on tonight. And some of the things we added in are the same things that the businesses, the conditions that are placed upon them all the time. So we've added a section to our ordinance to address the aesthetics of the signs and the bases. So materials of wood, metal, stone, and no more than 4 colors per sign. We also added a section for electrical connections to ensure proper wiring and underground service connections, and that the LED signs would be permitted in our residential zoning districts for schools, churches, hospitals, and with the maximum size of the sign to be 32 square feet with up to 16 square feet as the LED sign itself. The LED signs in non-residential districts could not exceed the size in our current schedule of sign regulations, and are only permitted on ground signs, not facade signs. And then all the other typical conditions that are usually placed upon these businesses by the zoning hearing board, dimming the sign at dark, changing the rate of images, 30 seconds maximum, and then landscaping required to the satisfaction of the township.
Okay, does anybody up here have a comment, question, concern? Okay, anybody in public have a comment? Yes, sir.
Not on this, but something separate.
This would be separate. This is just for the hearing. Okay, being that there is no other comments, then council will close this hearing and we'll consider this ordinance later this evening. So now we ask you to rise with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, now's your time. Do you have public comment?
No.
Please step up to the microphone, name and address for the record, please.
Okay. My name's Chris Field, 705 Gregory Drive in Horsham, and I'd like to ask the council for some help with residents using consumer grade or commercial fireworks. But before I do that, I want to acknowledge a couple things. First of all, I know some of you council members have been doing this for decades. Some of you are new. You're mostly in the background when things are going well, and I just want to say thank you for what you're doing. You know, you probably don't get much appreciation for what you're doing, so I'll say thank you. Secondly, Bill Walker and the township, in particular John Rawlick's ops group and the whole township, the response to the tornado, the cleanup that's been done, the partnering with the county has been nothing short of amazing. I don't know what else you guys have been hearing, but kudos to all of you. I know I and my neighborhood on Gregory Drive, we appreciate it, and most others do too. So regarding commercial fireworks with residents, I passed out a copy of a page from the newsletter that you guys put out in fall of 2018, winter of 2019, and you were good enough to let people know what the rules were regarding using commercial fireworks. And I think the most important words in there were that, with very few exceptions, there are no areas in Horsham legal to set off commercial grade fireworks. Properties just don't have enough separation to get 150 feet from the house to set off commercial fireworks. I'm asking that the council will repeat this information piece. I think it's a great information piece. I don't think enough people read it. So if you could take under consideration and put it into some other council newsletters, op-eds in the Spirit and the Intelligencer. I'll say I personally love the fireworks. My family loves the fireworks. Unfortunately, I have a dog that doesn't. A couple years ago, she hyperventilated so much when fireworks were going off that she went into convulsions. I almost lost her. And you might say, that's terrible, that's a personal problem, but I know I'm not alone. The night after the tornado, somebody was setting off commercial-grade fireworks on Babylon Road. While I waited at Gregory Drive and Babylon Road for the police to arrive, two men came out of the neighborhood across the street. One said, "What's going on?" I said, "Well, they're shooting off commercial fireworks, and I've reported it so we can get it stopped." He said, "Fireworks? Those aren't fireworks, those are mortars." I don't know if you've been around when they've been shot off. My property backs up to Jarrett Road right across from the library. And 2.5 years ago, somebody was setting off commercial-grade fireworks all the way on the other side of the neighborhood near the power lines. I didn't know where they were coming from. It sounded like they were coming from the library. I went out in my backyard into the library parking lot to find that nobody was there shooting off fireworks. That's how loud they are. So I know I'm not alone. I visited with Chief Daly at the time. I said, "I hate being that guy that has to call." And he said, "No, I need you to be that guy." He said, "You're not alone. A lot of people call about it. It may not be the number one thing we're facing at that moment, but you need to call. You need to make us aware so we can stop it when it happens." I know a couple of times that I reported it. I've reported it 5 times since 2018, unfortunately. One occasion, I know the person did know the rules. They did it anyway. The other occasions, I think people didn't. So if we can make them aware, they'll let the rest of us enjoy the fireworks when they're scheduled. I have no problem with Horsham Day. I'll medicate my dog, take her down in the basement, turn up the music, or I'll take her to my son's and skip back, get her out of town. But 4th of July week, it's every night, every other night. And it's not fair to those of us that have to deal with it this way. And I would just hope that you guys would take the steps to put the information out 2 or 3 times a year maybe until people get it, until they understand it. I think a lot of people would be thankful, including the police. They've got much better things to do than worry about this stuff. So, thank you. Any questions?
No, I appreciate your comments. I know we've been dealing with this for many years, Chief, correct? And unfortunately, I think from our conversations that what happens is a lot of times before the police can show up, the people that are doing it are gone. So it's hard to nail them down and figure out who's doing what. But Bill, I know we have made an effort to put the information out there. Is there, at this time, is there anything else that we can do? I know fireworks season's kind of over, but
I wish I could say that, but we can use our social media, we can use our website. Our next newsletter goes out in January, so we can put something out in the January newsletter. So as Mr. Field explained, like we could do things throughout the year, increase the education, community outreach and education about what the law is.
And I think unfortunately, like you said, you know, when we have these holidays and people are setting off fireworks, Bill, how many officers do we have on the street at a given time?
Can be anywhere from 5 to 8.
Yeah, so it's hard to chase everybody down, and as you know, it's a tough thing. We hope that people that would become educated would be smarter about what they do. We've seen the injuries and the deaths from people that do handle these fireworks incorrectly or illegally. We can only do what we can do, and that's try to spread the information and try to be out there trying to get the people that are ignoring the laws. But I think we will make an effort, Bill,
Yes.
to try to spread the word a little bit more.
I think that would help a lot. Thank you.
Okay?
That's all I can ask.
Sure thing. Anybody else?
I would, if you could, Mr. McCouch, if we could,
Sure.
just because I know some of these people have to leave, if we could go back to the police and then pick up public comment after we're done with the police recognitions,
Sure.
if you don't mind. I know some of these people have to leave, so.
Not a worry. Got to get you back on the street. So the next is to recognize the Horsham Township Police Department for the renewed accreditation.
So as council knows, our police department was one of the first in the state in 2003 to receive accreditation out of about 1,200 departments. And every 3 years since 2003, our department has received its reaccreditation. And this accreditation that our department does is so vital and so important to us in our department, as everyone knows. And it is a progressive way of helping us assess ourselves and enhance our department. So it's not every 3 years that, a few months before the accreditation team comes to Horsham. It's an ongoing training. One of the command staff are always assigned to be the accreditation manager. Currently, it is Lieutenant Potts. And we take it very seriously. We work at it year-round in Horsham. They have to uphold, I think it's 140 standards, or probably more now.
Just under that.
140 different standards that they have to go through and comply with. As council also knows, in the fall of 2020, we became a premier agency status, which means we have received our accreditation every 3 years since we were accredited in 2003. So again, it is very important to our department, and it is very important to our township, and it's very important to our community, the training that our officers go through, which is above and beyond what the state and federal mandates are for training. Chief or Lieutenant, want to speak?
Yeah.
You just wanted to say a few words about the reaccreditation?
Accreditation is a very important process, just as Mr. Walker said. It proves, it demonstrates that we follow the best practices for law enforcement. And many of the issues that you see and hear about on a daily basis in the news, because we've been accredited for so long, we've been dealing with these things, heading them off at the pass, so to speak, much sooner than some departments in Pennsylvania and across the nation today. So I'm very proud that I've been the accreditation manager this long. I'm proud of the men and women of the police department for the job they do. And it's really been an honor to do this for the township and the department.
Very good. Well, congratulations. I know you've been here before us with this, and I'm not surprised that you're back again. So I know you'll be back again in the future. So again, congratulations to everyone involved and to the whole department for their work.
Thank you.
Okay, next is to recognize some police officers with the accommodations. Chief?
Thank you, sir. Deputy?
Recommended I have a mask on.
That's
This is a crowd who really followed recommendations. That's awesome. We can get people that follow the Surgeon General on smoking. No one would smoke anymore.
Chief, can you please use the microphone?
I'll talk very loud.
Yeah, but the camera can't hear you.
Okay.
You can take it out and hold it.
Good evening. One of the greatest things as a chief of police that I'm able to do is to recognize outstanding performance from our men and women of the police department. We were recognized tonight for being reaccredited. There's on any given day, because the way that is worded is truthful. On any given day, there's approximately 1,200 police departments in the Commonwealth. That's because some merge and they form, some disband. So out of those 1,200 police departments, on any given day, there's about 125 that are accredited. And we're one of those 125. We were in the top 10 in the Commonwealth when we first became accredited. And part of that, it goes hand in hand with everything we do. So tonight we're going to recognize officers for outstanding performance in the line of duty. And part of that is Lieutenant Potts is our accreditation manager. he's turning it over, and Sergeant Dunning is going to take this program over for us over the next 3 years. But part of it is not just when you get reaccredited every 3 years, it's what you do each and every day when you go out there. And the accreditation, we have 140 approximately standards that we have to follow. If you remember when you take that history test and the teacher goes, there's going to be 5 questions on it, but question 3 is A, B, C, D, and E. And really that 5-question history quiz ends up being about 20 questions. That's exactly the way accreditation works. So it's actually close to 400 standards that you have to prove that you do on a regular basis. And what that does, that translates into professional policing. When you look at the men and women that are over in the corner, you're looking at some of the most professional people in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. They're awesome. And I can tell you, coming off the heels, what you said about the storm cleanup and the aftermath. Well, I was working the night that men and women were out there and they were rescuing people. They were going on calls, trees were falling. We have an officer here who a tree fell and crushed his car up on Park Road. And I've never been more proud to be the chief of police of such a fine police department, such fine men and women. And you're going to see a few examples tonight. We're playing catch up. It's great to be back here in front of council. For so many months, council was virtual. And then when they came back, they only allowed 10 people in. And now we're back to allowing people in, and masks are recommended. So my son and I are here without them. Sorry. So we're going to start by the oldest. And I don't mean in age. So we're playing catch up because of COVID. So Lieutenant Bozama, would you please come up? For people who've seen me before, I usually ad lib, but because there's so much involved in this, I don't want anything missed. So I actually wrote notes tonight for one of the very first times in my career when I've spoken in front of a crowd at council. March 29th, 2019. There's been a string of pizza delivery robberies, numerous robberies that occurred in the Horsham area. A lot of them were concentrated down along the Blair Mill Road corridor. Sergeant Dunning, our detective sergeant, was doing a follow-up at the exact time another call came in for a pizza delivery at the Blair Mill Apartments. It followed the same MO. It was the same number that it came off of. He immediately called Lieutenant Bozamo, and they put together an undercover sting. When we do things normally, police love to plan, especially our SWAT team. They'll come out 10 hours before they do anything to plan. There was no planning. They had to move really quick. The lieutenant got changed, civilian clothes on, and came out, and he delivered the pizza that night. Officers were in place around the corner of the building. Lieutenant approached Blair Mill Apartments, the front entrance of one of the apartment buildings, building number 6. No, I'm sorry, on Allison Road, correct? I don't even remember. You don't even remember? It flashed before your eyes. You'll understand why he doesn't remember in a second. He approaches the apartment at Blair Mill Apartments, front door, and exiting the door is a man dressed in all black with a black handgun and points it right at his head. Demands the food, so he was hungry, and he demanded his wallet and money. As other officers came around the building, he was distracted. The lieutenant, who was armed at the time, took him down to the ground and wrestled him to the ground until they could get him handcuffed and taken into custody. This was definitely a case when lethal force would have been justified. Lieutenant decided not to take that route. He decided to go hands-on, take him to the ground, and arrest him. Because of that, the suspect who did commit a crime is alive today. Lieutenant, you performed outstanding when met by an armed and dangerous adversary. You reflected credibly upon our police department. Your act of bravery and unselfishness to your own personal safety deserves to be commended. Deputy Chief?
Congratulations, Lieutenant. Very proud.
So just for the audience, so that you can have an idea of what Lieutenant Bizzomo has here. He's a commendation for bravery for the performance of an outstanding police service where the officer's effort is met by an armed and dangerous adversary. And then there's a small note here that gives you a little bit more. You've heard the story. But in summation, in recognition of your selflessness and bravery on March 29th, 2019, during a robbery sting where you acted as the intended victim and had a gun pointed at your head. Despite the justification to deploy lethal force, you chose to make the apprehension utilizing impressive restraint, thereby eliminating the likelihood of injury or death to the suspect. Awarded today, the 27th of September, 2021, signed by Chief Daly. Again, congratulations.
Behind every good lieutenant is his wife. Officer Flanagan, please come on up. September 20th, 2020, Roosevelt Drive in Horsham Township, a medical call came out, an unresponsive subject. Officer Flanagan arrives on scene, locates the subject in a bedroom upstairs on a bed, not breathing, no heartbeat. He has the subject moved to the floor, and he begins with chest compressions. Later, he administers 2 AED shocks to the patient. While caring for the subject, he took control of the situation. He got background information on the person's medical history. He radioed that to other responding officers and EMS coming. He calmed the family down, and all this was recorded on his body camera. Because of the nature of it, I wanted to show it, and the deputy chief told me I probably wouldn't fare well if I showed it, because it wouldn't look good. What he did would look great, but it's extremely personal to the person who was dying. By the time EMS arrived, the patient was breathing with a strong pulse. Medics on scene sent us a letter, and they felt without Officer Flanagan's intervention, the patient would have died. Through our investigation, when we're looking into this award, viewing the body cam, it was undisputed amongst us that Officer Flanagan's quick actions, ability to multitask, his life-saving efforts, is the reason this person is alive today. Officer Flanagan, congratulations.
In recognition of your exceptional police service, the commendation for merit for an active, intelligent, and valuable police service, demonstrating faithfulness or perseverance, including a life-saving act or an especially important arrest accomplished through intelligent police performance, is awarded to you, Officer Timothy Flanagan, in recognition of your outstanding dedication and performance on September 20th, 2020, while rendering life-saving medical care and resuscitating a patient suffering from cardiac arrest. Again, awarded on this 27th day of September 2021. Congratulations. Thank you.
Last but not least, Sergeant Simpson, Detective Costello. Friday, November 20th of 2020, we had an active fire at the Addison English Village Apartments, Building 6. Detective Costello, who was then assigned to our patrol division, was the first on scene. He immediately began to evacuate the building. There was heavy smoke inside the building and the hallways of Building 6. From the outside, a woman and a child could be seen on the 3rd floor through a window. Officer Costello attempted to go into the building, got to the 2nd floor, and was not able to go any further due to the heavy smoke condition. Instead of giving up, he went back in a second time. Sergeant Simpson went in with him. They were able to get up into the building. They were able to use their flashlight, communicate with a lady, to have her and her child start to come toward them, to their voice and to the light of the flashlight. Officers displayed courage without regard for their own personal safety to evacuate the building, and this lady and her child is alive today because of Detective Costello and Sergeant Simpson's act of bravery and unselfishness, putting other people before themselves. She wanted to be here tonight, but unfortunately she is out of town and could not be here. But gentlemen, thank you very much. She wanted to say thank you. You guys are showing the public what this department stands for each and every day by such unselfish acts and putting the public, putting our citizens, putting our residents before yourself. Thank you.
In recognition of your exceptional police service, the commendation for heroism, for an act of heroism and outstanding courage without regard for personal safety while attempting to save a life, is awarded Sergeant Ben Simpson and Detective Michael Costello. In recognition of your outstanding courage and selflessness on November 13th, 2020, while rescuing a mother and her child from their burning apartment building, awarded this 27th day of September 2021. Congratulations, gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. That concludes our recognition ceremony tonight from the officers. And again, I just want to close with the men and women that are here tonight that came out for this and the ones that are out working the street right now. On my way in, there's 3-4 officers out of disturbance in progress and ambulance responding. There's someone injured. This is what the men and women of the police department do every single day. And I'm proud of all of you. Thank you.
Going to do,
Yes, but we'll take a little break. We're going to do a couple photos. So the first photo, I'll ask the chief and Lieutenant Potts to come up with your accreditation plaque. And then after that picture, I'll ask the 4 officers that received their accommodations this evening to come up after that photo. That's good. Okay. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Hold on.
all right, we ready to continue?
Yes, sir.
All right, Bill, so we're going to scoot on back to the opportunity for questions and comments from the public. I know we jumped ahead at the beginning, but I want to go back to that. I know you have something, and then I'm going to go back to the audience in case we missed somebody out there.
Just to mention for our official minutes, our janitor of 10 years that has cleaned our township building for a decade has retired, Lorraine Kane. Many of you didn't know her. She worked in the nighttime here to keep our building clean. She started with us in our former building, and then she moved with us down to our temporary location down at Babylon Business Campus and cleaned those offices for us. And then she came back to here with us, but she has retired. She does not like the spotlight, so she did not want to come to tonight's meeting. But we wanted to just thank her for her service of 10 years to the township in keeping our facility spotless. And we wish her well. She is a township resident, but we wish her well in her retirement.
Awesome. So as we do with every retiree, we're going to give this proclamation. Whereas we are here today to recognize Horsham Township resident employee Lorraine Kane for her 10 years of dedicated service on the occasion of retirement. Lorraine began working for Horsham Township in August of 2011 as the part-time custodial worker for the municipal building. Upon Lorraine's arrival, township elected officials, staff, and visitors soon began to notice a huge improvement in the appearance of the facility. Despite working when the township office was closed, Lorraine quickly became known to all township employees and elected officials as a valuable member of the team. When the old township building was retired, she promptly transitioned her skills to our new municipal building without missing a beat. On behalf of Horsham Township Council and staff, we thankfully and gratefully express our most sincere best wishes to Lorraine for her dedication over the past 10 years. Her attention to detail and concern for each and every aspect of our job made her exceptional. We wish her the best as she begins this new chapter in her life. Again, congratulations to Lorraine. Bill, I'm sure you'll pass this along to her as well. So is there anyone else in the public that needs to make a comment? Mr. Starr. Name and address for the record, please.
Andrew Starr, 926 Langdon Avenue. I just wanted to comment and hopefully make a couple of quick public acknowledgments. I know that you've got a packed house today, so I'll be brief as possible. So September 1 was probably the most aggressive storm we've ever had here in Horsham, and I live on Langdon Avenue. It was pretty significant. We couldn't get out of our road for 2 days. But that being said, the first organization I'd like to thank is going to be the township itself, and primarily Public Works and even emergency management. They made some wonderful decisions. They got us out of our houses. You can't imagine what it's like to be walking over high-tension wires to get out of your house and being scared to death to do that. A lot of people were very, very afraid. And they did a great job moving material out of the street to a secondary landfill to take care of, the opening of the roads. It was significant. Another interesting thing about being stuck at home without any power and helicopters flying overhead, you can almost hear the headline on the Channel 10 News is Horsham out of power for 3 days now. And that's a pretty scary thing when you don't have any power. And those a little bit nefarious may want to take advantage of that, so we were all on heightened alert. And so at 9 o'clock at night, we were hanging out with neighbors, discussing the day's events. We had a truck drive up and down the road, flashing lights at houses, street signs. It was probably innocuous, it was probably just a contractor. Long story short, though, I approached him because he shouldn't have been there. And when he said he worked for PICO, I called him on it and said, I'm calling the cops. I ran into the house, called the cops, and by the second I got outside, there were 3 squad cars driving up and down the road. Now, nothing as life-threatening as some of the other stuff they were acknowledging tonight. But the fact of the matter is that we all had a very calm feeling because of the incident response from our Horsham Township Police, and I wanted to recognize them tonight also for the fine job that they did during this particular situation. And on a personal note for 2 others, first one is going to be Gary Bissick of Emergency Management. Gary took the time to walk through our neighborhood while we were cleaning up outside to look at us, to help us in any way with information, to give us a warm feeling that things were happening. And unlike some of the other dog and pony shows, if I will, from our local and state politicians, Gary actually stopped and talked to us. And that was an amazing experience. We felt a lot of connection with that, and I want to thank him for taking the opportunity to talk to every single one of us as he walked by. And finally, I'd like to recognize in particular one of the people in our neighborhood, and that would be Liz Geppert. She owns Geppert Lumber in Roslyn. So, as I aforementioned, that the roads were blocked for 2 days. The following morning, I don't know how Liz did it, she pulled a huge truck onto our property. And on that truck, she had numerous generators, she had cables, she had bags, she had all these things that we were using, could have used, and did use, free of charge, fully gas generators for people that didn't have them, and we were able to disperse them through the neighborhood. And so, due to that kindness, there was nobody that was left without. And what it did is it cemented what Horsham is, and it's not just a town, it's a town full of great people. And these people came together, and we all worked together, and we survived this. And it was a wonderful feeling to see this all come together. But these are the people and the organizations I wanted to acknowledge today because I think they did a great job. And I am very, very grateful and very proud to be a Horsham Township president. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andy. I know that at our last meeting, we recognized quite a few people during your update. people and organizations that came to the rescue. And I know we missed some. And I'm glad to hear your story, and I hope we can hear more stories, because you're right, it's what Horsham's all about. It's neighbor helping neighbor. We've seen it all over, and it's a good feeling, like you said. So again, thank you for your comments. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am. Name and address for the record, please.
No, my name's Catherine Kenny. I reside at 252 Garden Avenue, and I am here just because I have some concerns about the middle school and the location that was originally proposed. I have some environmental and community concerns. But I want to hear what you have to say today, and so I'm not putting anything forth to say, oh, this or that, but just letting you know that I am here on that behalf.
Okay, so they'll be giving a presentation in a few minutes, and she'll be able to speak if you want.
Yes, and I also want to acknowledge that we did receive your letter.
Thank you.
And the members of council did receive your letter.
Okay, I did not call because of Ida, and I felt that you were overwhelmed with too many other community issues, and that mine, at that point, was not a priority. So thank you for telling me. Thank you.
We'll hear you later on this evening. Any other comments, ma'am?
If I'm joining her with that comment?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep, everyone's free to talk. Okay, so next is the update on our tornado and floods.
So as my last report, we did not have a final homes and businesses impacted by the tornado and the flood. Many of us have focused on the tornado, but many homes and some businesses were impacted by the flood only. So 784 homes and businesses in Horsham were impacted by the flood and tornado. We expect that 3 to 6 homes will have to be demolished in Horsham from the storm. Many of us know that the FEMA has opened their disaster recovery center at the community college, so that's available for residents to go to. And there's state and county agencies and departments at the community college. They're open 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. They are closed on Sundays. They do have evening hours till 7 p.m. for those people that might be working. The county's debris management company is still going around collecting. They'll probably be doing that for the next 30 to 60 days. A lot of calls have come in about household hazardous waste from the storm areas. We have not picked that up yet. That will be a separate collection in a couple weeks from now. So we'll put that out through our social media and website as soon as we have a date for that household hazardous waste collection.
Any questions up here? Okay, next is the approval of checks. We have a motion.
I move to approve the list of checks and all funds in the amount of $274,961.15, and further move to authorize payment of the same.
Second.
Moved in second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Have it. We have approval of minutes.
Approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Moved in second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Next is to render a decision on the Hallmark Building Group's conditional use bill.
At your last meeting, you had a public hearing on the conditional use application for the Hallmark Building Group, which is the Oak Ridge development to occur at County Line Road and Keith Valley Road. So this evening, the adjudication is prepared in your meeting packet for your consideration this evening.
If there are no comments, do we have a motion?
I move to approve the conditional use application for Hallmark Building Group, Inc., 1000 Park Ridge Road, 21-07-CU.
Second.
Moved and seconded. This is a roll call vote.
Mr. Gallagher, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Hill Milborn, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Nesbitt, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Whiteside, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
And Mr. McCouch, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Next is consider the same Hallmark Building Group's land development plan, the final plan.
You reviewed that at your last meeting. The final plan has been recommended for approval by the Planning Commission. So we did receive their agreement to accept conditions this evening, so it is ready for your consideration this evening.
Any comments? Do we have a motion?
I move to adopt the resolution as proposed, granting final approval to the Hallmark Building Group Incorporated Land Development Plan, 1001 County Line Road, 20-09-D.
Second.
Been moved in second, and again, this is a roll call vote.
Mr. Gallagher, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Hill Milborn, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Nesbitt, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Whiteside, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
And Mr. McCouch, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, now for some fun. Let's get the presentation on the Keith Valley Middle School.
As council knows, our middle school, we have an exciting project. They are here this evening for a presentation on the project. As part of their presentation, they're also here this evening for a review of their zoning hearing board application. So you can get two done at one time during their presentation. So when they come up to the slide for the variances they need, you can pause there and we can talk about the variance relief that they need. But as we all know, the school is 1959, I believe, was built in 1959 as the high school back then. So it's past its life expectancy. We beat them. The old township building was built in 1959. So we got our project done before them, but that's okay. It's an exciting project for the community. Many of us some of us went through Keith Valley Middle School. At that time it was a high school. But it's an exciting project for the school district, an exciting project for the community to be kicking this off. So I will turn it over to Dr. Everslodge.
Thank you very much, Mr. Walker, members of council. Thank you for giving us time this evening, and thank you for acknowledging our first responders and some true heroes this evening. That was very nice. I'm Scott Everslodge, the superintendent of schools for the Horsham School District. I'm proud to have joined this community in 2020 and excited to be a willing partner with all of you as we jointly seek to better the community. We're here this evening to discuss our plans in replacing the Keith Valley Middle School building and to seek your support in moving forward with the project. The current Keith Valley Middle School building has come to its useful end. And we understand that this is not a surprise. This project has been in the works and part of the long-term capital plan of the school district for roughly 10 years. I, along with my team and our current board of school directors, are continuing the work and planning that was initiated under previous superintendent, Dr. Curtis Griffin, our previous business director, Mr. Bob Reichert, and our dedicated school board members over the past 10-plus years. We're pleased to be working once again with the township on a building project. The Hallowell Elementary School project was a great example of our past collaboration. The construction of Hallowell was recognized by the Montgomery County Planning Commission as an Excellence in Planning and Design award-winning project, earning a 2018 Montgomery County distinction for successful community collaboration, innovative design, and sustainable practices. We certainly hope to rekindle that community synergy with this project while also learning from the lessons of experience that were taught to us through the project. While we have some new faces to our team, myself included, we also have some familiar faces. We have Mr. Jamie Lynch, our construction manager from Dewey Engineering, who will be now working with the school district on his third major building project, Hallowell, Crooked Billet, and now Keith Valley. And we're also joined by Mr. David Schrader from Schrader Group, our architectural design firm, who worked with us on designing Crooked Billet and has been an excellent partner of the district as we move into the Keith Valley project. Also joining me this evening are Mr. Bill Stone, Director of Business Affairs for the district, and you'll also hear from Mr. Terry DeGroot, civil engineer from Terraform Engineering, who will speak to you as well. And I'm pleased to be joined by board members Jennifer Wilson, David Brown, and DJ Schultz, and our Director of Operations, Mr. Joseph Groh. This project has been a collaborative process. Our starting point has been to think of this through the lens of the middle school learner. Every young person in the community in grades 6 through 8 will experience Keith Valley as a learning space. And we owe it to them to make it a space that's optimal for learning. Using this lens, we use nationally renowned learning consultants, as well as leaning on our own educators and teachers throughout the process to ensure that we design a space that will best facilitate student learning for young adolescents. We seek to embed flexible, adaptable spaces that allow for students to easily collaborate with one another and to naturally connect with learning resources within the building. Teaming structures in the middle school are an integral part of the middle school experience and are prioritized in the design of the project to foster both staff and student cooperation and collaboration. We've also actively sought neighborhood feedback. If you could advance to the next slide, please, Mr. Walker, thank you. We've actively sought neighborhood feedback. We've gone door to door with our neighbors immediately adjacent to the property, including meeting with representatives from the Jesuit Church adjacent to the property. And we've held a neighborhood meeting that was invited all of the neighbors within 1,000 feet of the property of Keith Valley. At that meeting, we had roughly 75 members of the community join us. We shared our planning, answered questions, and gathered feedback for about a 3-hour meeting that evening. Our construction manager, Mr. Jamie Lynch, has also made himself available to neighbors and has since had multiple contacts with individual neighbors about their questions and concerns. What you'll see tonight is a plan that we believe has been responsive to that neighbor feedback. While we do have some limitations on our site layout, with the need to continue our current program at the existing Keith Valley throughout the construction period, we have been able to make some adjustments based on the input we've received from our neighbors. Some of these adjustments include extending the setback from the property lines, particularly on the Milton Avenue side, improving stormwater management, committing to have all parent, visitor, and bus parking and access to the site from the Meeting House Road side, as well as improving landscaping and buffering on the site. Next slide, please. Some notable aspects of the project include maintaining school operations during construction. There are some limitations with the site. The building will not need to be phased. In other words, we won't have any relocation of students. Students will be in the current Keith Valley Middle School until the project is completed. At no point will some be in the new building and in the other building. At no point will students have to be relocated off-site. But once the building is complete, students would then go to the new building, and we would move to demolish the existing building. The site is designed to include the noisiest area of the site towards the center of the site, furthest from our neighbors, with the quieter areas on the outside of the site. We do have a 3-story classroom wing at the back of the building that's quieter, and a quieter area in relationship to the neighbors on Milton Avenue. The public spaces that are louder, including the gym, auditorium, natatorium, and traffic, are in the center of the site. Our submission and our initial budget includes the replacement of the administration building into the new middle school. The current administration would be demolished on site and built into the new middle school, and construction of a pool to replace the high school pool that is in need of major renovation or replacement. And a separate bus and parent access on Meeting House Road that will keep those two separated, but also keep the traffic coming from Meeting House Road with a staff entrance on Upland Avenue. We'll show you some images to support this that'll make it a little more clear. Our athletic fields will move from the current back of the site to the front or the Meeting House Road side of the site, where the burnt building currently sits. All athletic programs will continue through construction, but we will require some off-site field use. Some of this will occur at the high school, we've also been very appreciative of the township and our community teams that have offered to share some community field space for our athletic teams during the construction phase. This time, advance to the next slide, I'll introduce Mr. Bill Stone, our Director of Business Affairs. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Everslog, and good evening, Council. I'm going to first begin with a site image here, and I'll orient you briefly to the site. There's an outline of the existing Keith Valley building right here, and the existing administration building up in the corner here. Dr. Everslog mentioned incorporating neighbor feedback, and we've attempted to do that in this site plan. The building setback is approximately 100 feet, which is almost 3 times greater than the required setback by your ordinance. We've added significant property buffering along the Milton and Arundel side of the property, and some additional buffering along Upland and Meeting House. We've already addressed feedback that we received from the neighbors on this side of the school, that school bus traffic has been increasing in that part of the neighborhood. So we've already rerouted those buses so that they no longer travel out Olive Avenue here and through the neighborhood, and that will continue on the new site. We will close this to vehicular traffic. We're also working to improve the existing site conditions that we have. We intend to construct new curb and sidewalk along Upland Avenue and also along Meeting House Road. All traffic, as Dr. Everslog noted, will come in off of Meeting House Road, and you see we have a bus loop here for the buses to queue up. and we have parent access, which is a longer queue line than what we have now. For those of you who are there at school time, the line does queue up on Meeting House, and we hope to address that. So in order to accommodate school operations during construction, you see that the new building here has to be situated such that it does not interfere with where the existing building is located. We also have stormwater basins, which is an important part of the neighbor feedback that we receive to make sure that we are capturing and retaining that water so that it does not go off-site and affect our neighbors negatively. Next slide, please, Mr. Walker. Thank you. So this is a three-dimensional view of the site. You can see here the athletic fields will be on the site of the existing building. You have a sense for now entering the site. This will be what we call parent drop-off and visitor parking. You have your bus loop here. This loop is for deliveries, and this will be the loading dock area. And this area right here will be staff parking. We'll have gated access here so that during normal school operations, we won't have traffic coming in from multiple directions. We'll keep that closed off. But in larger events, we can open up those gates. The administration would enter here from Upland, off of Upland Avenue, and that would be the only traffic, the staff and administration. You'll also note that there is a walking path that traverses the entire site and connects over to sidewalks on the other side. And I would like to note that this athletic field here, in our submission, it is proposed to be synthetic turf. So that's in our calculations. Next slide, please. Thank you. So this is a cutaway view of the building itself, and I'll just highlight some of those areas here. This area in the sort of bottom section is the administration area. So on the first floor, you'll have the administration for the school itself, and the second floor will be the district administration building with an entrance here for district administration and an entrance here, which would most likely be considered the main entrance for the school. This area right here is a community room, which could serve as a school board meeting room or for other important meetings in the district and community. The auditorium sits right here. It has a movable wall here so that you can open that door and have additional seating capacity for large school events or large community events. Next to that is the cafeteria and dining commons area. And I'd like to also then point out here that this is the bus loop entrance. So many students will be entering here and here. So we're able to disperse the student population to two different entrances. And the students will enter on a second floor walkway. And the reason for that is you can see there's existing grade on the site. So we're constructing the building to take advantage of that grade and have the students come in over this walking path here. This would also be the community entrance. So when there are events for community, we would have this open and we could keep these spaces in the front here, which would be, we expect to be used heavily by the community, can be closed off from the educational section of the building. So you see you have the main gymnasium here, the competition pool replacing the pool in Simmons. And then you have 4 3-story teaming houses in our middle school model. So the thinking is that each team has grades 6, 7, and 8 on each of the floors and can be self-contained within the building. Next slide, please. Thank you. So we now have a short video of the site that flies you through the exterior and interior, and I'm going to introduce David Schrader from Schrader Group Architects to narrate that for us.
Well, thank you. Good evening. Before we click through this real quickly, you can sort of see this was a really interesting puzzle to try to squeeze on the site with the existing building, the playing fields, the administrative structure, on and on. I'll use my windshield wipers and my glasses as I go. So what you'll see here is kind of a conglomeration of the ideas that Dr. Eveslog talked about relative to the flexibility, and I'll try to define that as we go, and the challenges on the site that Mr. Stone has defined. And so we'll do a quick fly down and then fly up a couple of the avenues and then through the building to give you a sense. So hopefully this is not how the students get to school, but this is a way to take a look at the facility from the top. One thing to outline here is the backside of the site here is actually intended to be just an emergency access road. And so what you just saw was you saw the parent drop off. Now you're seeing the delivery route down into the building, and then you'll eventually see here the bus drop off loop. So both the bus drop off loop and the parent drop off loop are intended to operate separately to try to make sure the buses and the cars never cross. So there's the bus drop off loop. We have it set up so that we can have both vans and the full contingent of buses in that driveway and available there. There was also some additional parking along the side where there currently is to give you field parking. So you're approaching the main entry here. Right-hand side is a football field and track as you know it today. And then there is a queuing area for cars to try to make sure we're keeping as many cars off of Meeting House Road as possible. Left-hand side are the playing fields, and when we get to the front side of the queuing line here, you'll be at it's both the student drop-off point, it's also the visitor security entry point that I would go into if I were to visit the building. So straight ahead, you're seeing the administrative structure, and as Mr. Stone mentioned, there's a space there that's a community room right at the entry to the building, and so that's what this is. So we're going to just go around the building briefly, and you'll see the 3-story classroom structures. More about that as we talk about the zoning issues to come, but the intent of keeping those as 3-story structures, besides being grade levels for the academic houses, it also kind of condenses the size of the building by giving us 3 stories along the backside to reduce the impervious surface. The neat thing for the students coming off the bus drop-off is they actually come in the second floor. So they'll either descend or go up one level only or straight into their student housing, their academic house. So the last part of the puzzle that was an interesting challenge for the whole team was the grading. Mr. DeGroot may talk a little bit about that. But the backside of the site does have some reasonable grade to it, and so that allowed us actually to drop these to the point where they are so that they're actually dropped down from the second floor. So we'll come back up around. You're going by the natatorium here, and then right next to that is the gymnasium. So bus drop-off, pardon me, is also the evening access point for the gym and for the natatorium. Probably will also be an evening access point for the auditorium, which happens to be right here. So you'll see the main entry point for the athletics is in this entry. That is also the bus drop-off area. Right now what we're programming there is the security officer for the district will actually be located right there as well, so you have administrative oversight of all of the entry points to the building. We'll come around the performing arts and back into the structure. The design of the interior comes from a variety of buildings that the district toured, and so this idea of these multi-use spaces may appear fairly unique, but it comes out of a variety of buildings that folks have toured in the team here. So now you're coming in the secure entry. You get a quick look at the community space that Mr. Stone referenced on the left-hand side. We are in fairly preliminary design, so things will change as we go here, but this is a pretty good starting point to give you a sense of what this might look like. So from the flexibility standpoint, these are a series of learning stairs that allow students to gather there at the entry or the beginning and the end of the day, but it also provides overflow space for that auditorium. So we're not building quite as big an auditorium. On the second level here, which is that second level entry point that I talked about, you can see the bridge that comes across the building, and then there's a main stairway that you either go up or down one floor to get into your student house. One of the common trends today is to make more of a college-level dining commons, and connected to that is the learning commons. Everybody's now familiar with the concept of STEAM, the science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. So what happens is that's all gathered around what is called a learning commons. Back in the day when I went to school, that was the library. So the library has all the tech ed programs and the art programs gathered around it, so the learning resources are there, as are the technology education spaces and the art spaces. And they're all connected directly back to that dining commons as well. And I think that the tour now goes into one of those learning commons. These academic houses are structured the same way as a facility that we saw down in Winchester, Virginia. So it's open teaming space, and then it's 2 classrooms on either side of a small group seminar space. And that's replicated on each floor. And what it does is it makes small learning communities. So it's each of those is a team of approximately 100 to 125 students who are teamed with a group of teachers that they're able to really connect with. So it's a great transition point from the elementary education programs to the high school learning programs. You're coming back around here. I think that the last thing we do from this perspective is to come back down towards the student entry point for the bus drop-off. And then I think we rotate into the athletics real quickly. So you can see it's a wide area for large volumes of students to traverse. Gives us plenty of room to get the large volume of students in and out. And gymnasium is still in design, but the intent there is to have a relatively competition-sized gymnasium so that the middle school has space that it needs for the athletic program as well. And again, these spaces, as Mr. Stone noted, are on the public side, which is towards Meeting House, and that allows us to keep the academic areas or the quiet areas towards the back. So they always say that a picture is worth 1,000 words. Hopefully the video was worth 1,000 pictures.
Okay. As I mentioned when the presentation started, so there's a combination here. The school district wanted to provide you, council, with a presentation of where they were at with the planning of the middle school, and that's all it was a presentation, but they are here officially for their zoning hearing board application review. And that's what this slide is about, that their engineer will go into about what zoning relief they are requesting. They are scheduled to be on the October zoning hearing board meeting.
All right. Hi, Terry DeGroot with Terraform Engineering. This is a very brief summary of our 10-page explanation for zoning. We get into all the details of which ordinance sections we need relief from. But in summary, we have four items to talk about. One of them is building height. We have an allowable building height of 35 feet above the average proposed grade, which in this case is 283.5. We are asking to allow the building to be 45.2 feet above the average grade, or a variance of 7.2 feet. Now, in reality, the actual highest point of the building is 52.7 feet from the ground at the loading dock. That's the lowest point. But the definition of height is from the average, the 283.5. So I could talk about numbers for hours if you would like, or we can keep moving. We also have lot coverage. We're allowed 25%, and we're requesting 44%. That is, so we have some additional impervious area. In order to separate the bus and the car parking, we need separate driveways, and we're making sure that the buses have more than enough room to maneuver. And all the increase in impervious coverage will be, of course, mitigated by detention and infiltration basins. We are working on the details now. Matter of fact, testing is underway to determine infiltration rates, but we're looking at anywhere from 2 to 4 underground detention basins, depending on what results we get. But that will significantly reduce the rate of flow and also the volume of flow in the 2-year storm.
So you're not sure if you're going to get 44, or it could be less, is what you're saying?
Well, we're going to be no more than 44 on the impervious coverage. But that increase in impervious coverage from 25%, which is allowed, to 44%, we're going to mitigate that. So the runoff that comes off of that impervious surface will go into detention and infiltration basins. So we'll reduce both the rate and the total volume of flow leaving the site.
Terry, do you know what the existing percent impervious is out there?
Yeah, hold on a second.
30.36.
Thank you. 30.33.
So they already exceed the maximum.
Correct. We also have some relief for signage. You probably saw some of the signs on the drive-through, at the main entrance, Keith Valley Middle School. There's a wall sign on the auditorium wall. There's another athletic sign over the gym entrance. And at the district administration entrance, there's a sign over the wall. Additionally, we have two directional signs, one at the bus entrance indicating buses deliveries, and another one on Upland Avenue that indicates the staff entrance. We also have a monument sign proposed on Meeting House Road at the parent drop-off and visitor entrance. That monument sign will include a variable message board sign, which I know you were talking about tonight, having an ordinance to allow that. But at this point, we're asking for a variance to allow a variable message board sign. And we also have some fencing. The athletic fields, as you saw before, are located along Meeting House Road. We also have a tennis court along Upland. We will have fences for those athletic fields within the building setback line. The ordinance doesn't permit a fence over 4 feet in the building setback line. This will be chain link fences with open mesh. The tennis court may have windscreen on it, but the other fences would be black vinyl coated chain link fence. So that's in a nutshell, and that's 10 pages down to one slide. And we can talk about the detail of zoning, or if you like, I can talk about it right now.
Well, I'm a little concerned about, this is the first time we're seeing, Derek, you haven't seen this yet?
We worked with their office on the average proposed grade and how to measure that. We have not reviewed this for stormwater management, but I can tell you, just from, you've heard this 100 times from me, your ordinance is very restrictive. So even though the impervious surface is going up, there's no stormwater management on that site right now. So you're going to see a significant reduction in runoff. So I don't have a concern from an engineering standpoint about the impervious.
And so, Bill, we're supposed to be neutral on this tonight?
Well, you have your choices, so just like it's a zoning hearing board application for next month, so you can be neutral with conditions or opposed.
I mean, most of these things seem to me like they're pretty simple, but first time seeing it, I'm just...
Yeah, and if they, I think one of the...
Engineer review letters, we get time to talk about it, we get a chance to understand what the numbers mean. You don't get me wrong, if this is half as good as the new Hallowell, it's going to be the greatest thing in the world.
Thank you.
The mitigation you did with traffic and stuff couldn't be better. But, you know, this is 10 times bigger than any other development we get in town, and we got 5 minutes to look at it and say, yeah, approve it. I'm not sure how I feel about that.
And I do have concerns about the 44% lot coverage, considering what we've just gone through with Ida and water and runoff. I need to understand it better.
Yeah, no, your concerns are noted. And we are, we're not asking for final approval tonight, although if you're willing to grant.
Well, we kind of have to give it...
So we've learned long ago in this process, regardless of who the applicant is that our power with regards to the variance you're seeking and the ability to put conditions on it in a cooperative effort to allow you to do what you, and this is really impressive, by the way, very impressive. Our ability to put conditions on things like impervious surface coverage, which obviously deal with stormwater management, we have to have some insight, and this is a bigger project. This isn't, John Smith around the corner who's doing a little, patio extension, which we're probably going to hear tonight because we hear one every night, and we have a pretty good handle on that. This is a horse over there. We know it's going to be better than what's there now, and we know it's going to be done right. It's just once we give a seal of approval or a neutral, which technically to anybody looking at this is an approval, I don't know how we do that in a vacuum. The only one that really gets me is the lot coverage, okay, where I feel a little uncomfortable. The other things are, to be expected with a project like this. I don't know where the basins are going to be.
Well, I'd also like to understand the height. That's a foggy picture here because it rolls. Where's it measured from? And when you look at it, is it going to look like it's 3 stories high, or is it really those heights because the ground is rolling? I mean, there's a lot to understand here.
Sure, and I
that
can
we
build-
would normally have the opportunity to review.
And I can elaborate that on a little bit, maybe Bill can put up the elevations, but, so, at the time of the application was submitted, our proposed finished floor was 280. That was the first floor. Okay, we have 14 feet between floors, so the second floor is at 294, and the third floor is at 30, what does that come out to, 308, right? Since then, we are fine tuning the grading on the site, and in order to make things balanced, we've picked the entire site up 6 inches. So instead of the first floor being 280, now it's 280 and a half. Now, these exhibits all indicate 280, but I just wanted to be clear on that point. So the average grade around the building was calculated using you see the ground symbol underneath the building there? It was used, all those points were collected and an average was taken. Okay, and that's that 283.5, which is, or actually 284 would be the new number. So that's 3.5 feet above the first floor. It's a little wonky, if you would, but that's how it is defined. So in the second view, in the middle of the page there, you look at the loading dock. That is the highest point from the ground to the roof on the building. Oh, sure. Let me see this one. There we go. So there's a loading dock there, and that loading dock sits 4 feet below the first floor elevation. So this is the highest point on the building. But the average building line is about 3 foot above the first floor. That's just math, and that's how that works. So we have 3 stories. This is looking at the southern side of the building with classroom wings. The classroom wings, this is one side, one corner. There's another corner that kind of bumps out. And then here you see the windows, that's inset. Okay, and we can look at a plan a little bit, get a little better handle on that. But we have a little eyebrow architectural feature on the windows here to get some more light into the building.
And the side you're showing us there at the top, is that the side, if I'm in those houses on Milton Road, that's what I'm looking at?
Correct, that's what you're going to look at from Milton Road.
So, lights on there, on that side or not?
There will be some security lighting, you know, but it won't be intense lighting. It's not a public area. This area will be used by students during the day. You know, they'll have some outdoor programming. The area between in the middle courtyard, there's 3 courtyards, 1, 2, and 3. The middle courtyard would be used for students to dine outside. Courtyard on the right would be for art, and the other courtyard is an additional outdoor learning space. And as Mr. Schrader mentioned earlier, the fire lane that is between the building and the houses on Milton Ave, that will be gated off, basically a pedestrian path, unless, you know, an emergency arose and we need to get.
You may have sent it, there's been a lot of information, so I missed it. What is the setback from the building to the property line?
100 feet. 100 feet. So the ordinance requires 30 feet, but we thought it was appropriate.
No, it's just
additional
curious.
height. So we've increased that by 70 feet.
No berm, just trees?
We're going to have trees, we're going to have a small berm, okay?
Trees on the berm?
Yes. So on the left side of the building, as we're looking at it from the back, that grade is higher than the property line along the houses at Milton. And on the right side of the building, it's about 6 to 7 feet lower than the grade of the property line. Because we got that hill that's not that steep, but it goes downhill along that line. So again, we tried to balance this site, I want to save costs and to reduce the amount of truck traffic on the road while we're building the new school. So there will be some landscaping back there. We're showing something on the plan. At this point, it's a double row of evergreens. I mean, obviously, we're open to suggestion there. We can mix that up with some deciduous trees. And we've already talked to some of the neighbors about what they might like. And obviously, we'll talk to your landscape architect and get their opinion on that as well. So the tallest portions of the building are in the back there at the loading dock. When we come up to the front, the natatorium, it's only a 2-story building. all right, because the gym is on the second floor, starts at the second floor. And then again, natatorium on the left, gym here, here's the gym entrance. And while I'm pointing out you can see the signage that we're also asking for relief from. Went over the gym entrance at the Performing Arts on the auditorium wall. Keith Valley Middle School, that's going to look real nice coming up that student drop-off driveway. And then at the side of the building, hold on a second, where did it go? Over here, where's my pointer? On this side of the building is, here we go. Here it is, right there. District Administration entrance on the side of the building. That would be visible from Upland Avenue. And again, now you're coming around to the backside where we hit the classroom wings again. But that's 3 stories of classroom wings at 14-foot floor to floor. And that's how we come up to the heights that we have.
So I'm sensing a little bit of resistance up here to give any kind of opinions tonight on this based on, some concerns I'm hearing, the impervious coverage concerns. I would think that maybe, Eric, you should look at this.
So
I know that you're okay with it, but
just to add some context, so the existing zoning is a residential zoning district, correct, Bill?
Yes, R4.
So 25%, that's for an R4 residential zone, right? Most schools, if you had an educational institutional zoning district, would have your impervious up in the 50% range. Like your commercial shopping districts are 65, 75%. So that's why I'm saying that 44% doesn't scare me for this big of a site with how strict your ordinances. I haven't reviewed a thing from a stormwater management perspective. I'm just saying like a 10,000 foot level, having dealt with other schools, that doesn't seem excessive to me. But again, I haven't.
The question becomes, your review of that stormwater management would do at 25%, there's a measured amount of runoff. That's what the 25% means. So if they go up to 44, is that mitigation that they're going to do equal to that 25% amount of runoff?
They're mitigating all 44%. Because they're removing all.
So the final amount of runoff is the same as it would have been if they built out the 25, which was allowed.
No, it's going.
If 2 gallons are allowed to run off at 25%, they go up to 44%, are we still down to 2 gallons running off? Or are we up to 4 or 5 or 6 gallons running off?
You're down to the same amount.
Okay, that's the question.
Yeah, and the ordinance is pretty restrictive. So the 100-year storm has to get detained down to the 50-year storm, the 50 down to the 25, 25 down to the 10, 2 down to the 1. So that is a very high bar, and we are in the process of meeting that. We don't have anything to submit at this moment, but obviously we will have to comply with your ordinance and work with your engineer to get that approved. We have no doubt that we can do that, but I would like to point out that in the current condition, there is no detention and no infiltration on the site. So we're going to kind of make up for some of the sins of the past when that type of thing was not done.
But respectfully, and I understand that logic behind that, and it's solid, rock solid logic, but we hear that with every development. It's going to be better than it was, but better than it was, which is terrible, doesn't necessarily give me a warm, fuzzy feeling, okay? So I understand exactly where you're coming from, because I've heard it a lot of times, but our job is to get it as right as possible, regardless of who the applicant is. And I do have to tell you, so Mary, I'm looking at this, I'm looking at the elevations, and let's just say we say thumbs up, neutral, no conditions. They go to the zoning hearing board, and they grant their variance. And now they're back before us, and we say, well, we want to regulate the lights. We got, there's more neighbors coming out of the woodwork. They didn't come out before because Lord knows that often happens. Are we hamstrung a little bit without having all of the information here
Maybe not
in the zoning hearing board process?
Maybe not as far as lighting goes, but what happens at the land development process is that Eric has the ability to look at their design and say, I think you can reduce your impervious if you do this or you do that. And maybe 40% isn't unreasonable, but maybe 40% isn't necessary either if Eric looks at it. And so if a variance is granted, what you lose is the ability to have the give and take between council and the township engineer to make sure that you have the minimum runoff necessary to accommodate the project.
Bill, just out of curiosity, if we do nothing tonight, what does it set things back?
They have a time schedule here on one of their slides. Maybe I'll just jump to it. This is their schedule. They were hoping to be in front of you tonight. As you see, the zoning hearing board meeting would be October 12th. They plan in November to submit their land development application and go through that process. So it would push them back to at least the November zoning hearing board meeting and push their schedule back.
Mark, I think it's incumbent on us to give them, if we do what seems to be the discussion here, I think it's incumbent upon us, for efficiency purposes, to give them some clear direction as to what we're looking for. You know what I mean? Like to set some objectives so that there's not more lingering questions the next time, if there's a next time, assuming there's a next time, when that's going to happen.
One of the ways that you could do that, if you'd like to accommodate their schedule, would be to ask the zoning hearing board for a condition that they will accept any reasonable recommendation of your engineer during land development to mitigate any of the effects of the variances that were granted. So that if Eric does look at it during land development, when the stormwater is fully developed and designed, and says, wait, you can improve this, you can do better than this, or like more vegetation in this area will help control even more, then he's got the ability to do that, and the school district can't rely on the grant of the variance to ignore the reasonable recommendations of the township engineer.
Have we ever done that before?
No.
Seepage, like maybe on a seepage pit or something really kind of minor. Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to hold you up, and I can see how this would delay things.
What do you think, Bill?
I think that basically what I'm hearing, Mary, is that we can set the conditions, and Eric can work with the school district to make sure that they are complied with.
Well, right, but we have to identify the conditions.
Yeah, we can't set them, we have to just identify the
Yeah,
conditions.
normally by now we have a whole series of review letters, so we understand what we're talking about. Over here, we have one slide.
I personally need more time and would feel that we have to exercise some due diligence and allow our township engineer to do his inquiry and come back with some recommendations and the appropriate support that would allow us to say we're neutral or support your recommendation. I need more time.
With speaking with the landscape architect, I know that's more of a land development issue, Bill, but in speaking with the landscape architect to help mitigate some of these issues, would that be helpful to do now?
Yeah, when you're talking about the trees and.
I'm talking about that and then, and the water issue, because there's things you could do with landscaping that the architect may be able to suggest.
Yes.
Before, along with Eric, to get these numbers within something that we can put our finger on, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you haven't talked to our landscape architect, I said.
We have not.
Which I understand why, but in this instance, because of the high percentage that we're talking about, which is, again, going back to what Eric said, it's somewhat normal, but, normal elsewhere might not be normal here. And you've seen what flooding can do here. And I know we have some people in the audience that want to voice an opinion.
Before you do that, can I just ask one more question? Because this says submit land development application in November 2021, I'm trying to figure out how big an ask our ask is, even though we haven't defined the ask yet. how, I'm assuming if there's a November 2021 land development application projected, that some of this work's already being done by your engineers, right? Some of the things that we're talking about, stormwater, things like that. It's not like you're going to start it, October 12th, 2021.
Yeah,
right?
we have started, and we're very early in the process. And as I mentioned previously, they're out on the school site last week and a couple more days this week to complete the testing that we need to really dig into the stormwater design.
So, like, have you figured out where the basins are going to be and stuff?
We have a very good idea where the basins are going to go.
Do you have any kind of preliminary drawings with the elevations and where the projected basins are, things like that?
Bill, if you can...
I'm not asking for them now.
No, I can explain it to you. Bill, if you can put up a site plan, or submit along with the application. Okay, that'll work.
And just a suggestion too, so, I was just speaking with Jamie. It might be wise, and see if we're all in agreement of this, Scott, if the school district seeks a continuance to the November zoning hearing board meeting, and let the staff work through the issues in October. Once we also just make a list of what the issues are, and then you can come back in front of council the fourth Monday of October, and then be at the zoning hearing board in November.
And still submit the land development plan in November, is that what you're suggesting, Mr. Walker?
If they're ready, they were looking at getting zoning hearing board approval and their variances approved before moving to the land development phase, but.
Well, assuming that
But they
something
can do
can be
that.
worked out on the zoning conditions, I would think they could move forward with land development plans to have them ready, right?
Yeah,
To some degree.
others have done that, it's at their risk, but, they run them together.
Yeah, and
At the same
obviously, we're
time.
here to work together. It's not like we're gonna set it off and say no. It's just trying to get it right,
Understood. No, I appreciate that.
So if that can work concurrently, I don't think it will delay your project much, more than a month maybe, if that, or not at all.
I think the goal would be to try and not delay it at all, but it's also, you're making a request for a variance from sign regulations, which are being amended presumably at tonight's meeting. So that's going to require an amendment to the zoning hearing board application. There's a lot of reasons to get it right.
Great, thank you. Just one other thing that I might add as you watch me working around the room and talking with the new superintendent and the business manager. I think you're absolutely right. First of all, the height and more importantly, the impervious versus land development, it's kind of a chicken or the egg thing. We need to come and get zoning relief before you can approve land development, but you want, Commissioner White said, to see the land development plan and understand the stormwater before you can approve the zoning.
Right.
So that's why I thought it was a pretty good idea that Bill suggested the continuance so that we could create the stormwater plan, come back and share it with you in some form or fashion. We wouldn't perhaps have complete land development done, but by developing that, it gives you the information that you're looking for zoning. So if the continuance goes on for one more month, we come back, we have a stormwater design, hopefully by then, and we can answer your questions and explain it a little better. We would love your support on building height and on the signs and on the fence. They're the exact same variances that council provided for Hollowell. Building height was exactly the same. We also got a variance for impervious at Hollowell, but as you say, larger project, different project. So we should go through that process again, is what I would recommend.
Yeah, and I think Mary brought up a good point about the signage, since we're working on that already, that may need to be amended anyway, you're saying. So, again, that's something that we can work through. That's definitely correct.
We will.
And that's not going to delay anything.
If you could, something that I would like also, not a
While
whole
we're
lot
all
of
beholden.
effort, not a whole lot of effort or expense in it, but if you have any renderings or something that could give us kind of a look at what does this building look like, especially the higher areas of it, as opposed to just the drawings on the screen.
Okay, so from the model that David shared with you, the three-dimensional, we can take snapshots throughout and provide you with a
That'd be
series. So what we have done is been taking a look at that Milton Avenue side, for instance, because we have our neighbors who are back there and trying to discern what the building looks like, where windows are placed, where the landscaping is placed. I met with one of the neighbors that's here tonight. He mentioned a berm underneath of the plantings. Yes, that was the desire that we heard there. Anything in order to put a normally 6-foot new tree at a higher elevation so that it provides the neighbors with a little bit of a buffer as soon as the building
Yeah,
opens.
and that's why this is different than Hollowell, because Hollowell doesn't sit as in close proximity to the residential side as this project.
No argument there.
So
And
it's not just visual, it's also sound.
right.
So,
No argument. We had similar issues at Crooked Billet that were successfully taken care of. But once again here, bigger project, community on 3 sides. No doubt we want to be as thorough as we were on our past projects. So I think if we can provide you with some information, come back and speak to you a little bit more clearly about the stormwater, because this is slightly more than a concept design, but it is certainly not a completely developed design at this point. But the guidance that was given is, we have some zoning relief that we need to be able to get in order to make the rest of the project go forward. So that's why I say chicken or the egg. But I think Bill's idea, in order to push it until November for zoning.
I don't think that'll delay things.
I think that'll be fine. The onus is on us, as it always is, to complete the design, answer your questions on stormwater. Hopefully, there's not much left to really explain on building height, but if colored elevations help, by all means.
And as soon as you can get it, the better, because the sooner we have it, the better opportunity we have to give you the approvals you're looking for at that meeting.
Sure. No, appreciate your help and understand that you're seeing the project and being introduced to it the first time tonight, so thank you.
I did say I'd give these women an opportunity to speak, so if you don't mind, I will let them, unless you have something else to add, I'll just let these.
I'd only like to conclude with the schedule has flexibility built in with the economic climate and the construction environment. We have anticipated summer construction start, 3-year project for the building, the new building itself, and then the 3rd year into the 4th year would be demolition of the existing buildings and reconstruction of the field. So there is flexibility in the project. And I just want to thank the council for having us tonight. We appreciate the opportunity to present a very exciting project for the district. So
We look forward
thank
to
you.
it, trust me. Ma'am, just name and address again for the record.
Catherine Kenny, 252 Garden Avenue. Thank you for at least considering due diligence. I feel that, like as you said, this is a huge project. We should not be rushing into it. We need to know what their environmental situation is, because as I have told you, there is a small creek bed that runs behind the back of my house, and even in times of drought, that bed has never gone dry. And it's coming from that field. Right now, you could go back there and you can hear the water actually trickling down. That is how much water comes down there. And that does feed into the Pennypack, and it is a headwater. And I think that we need to protect the environment there. That is my big concern. My other concern is, as I'm listening to this, is the variance they want in footage, because that is going to impact everybody in the neighborhood that lives behind there. You people and they will not have to look at it every day. You will not be seeing that building. I will. And I would like it to be something that, right now where the school is, it doesn't bother anybody. Those homes on Arundel Avenue were built after the school was built. So those people chose to live there. We are here already, and I have been on Garden Avenue for 68 years. I don't want to have to look at a huge building behind me. I'd like something that looks decent, and the school right now is up high. And I understand you've got ground issues, but you do have a lot of ground there. So please consider the neighbors that live there and the environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am?
Hello, Ann Shealy. I am the owner of 250 Garden Avenue.
Bring your mic down just a little bit since you're not speaking real loud.
Okay, can you hear me there?
Yep.
Okay, I am the owner of 250 Garden Avenue. So my home is in that open space right behind the school. First, I would like to thank you for your due diligence and considering the issues at hand. And as far as they were saying about the dates, I know there's material issues with labor and right now, so I really don't think that you taking the time to consider things is really going to put them back that much, because getting materials is going to be a hard thing anyway. But the issues that I do have is the height, because if you would ask the people who live in Aggie Avenue in Horsham, the Days Inn is right behind their house, and they have a huge building behind the house that they're looking at, and that's going to not be any different than what I see out my back door, because they are up a little higher, the school's up higher, I am down lower, and I am going to see this huge building behind me. With, even if they put trees, the trees, there's always trees dying, there's light getting through, which it's been an open space right now that the community has involved. Now, if I had children going to this school, I personally don't think I would want this setup. My children playing sports by the main road on Meeting House Road, although it's not as busy as 611 where Hollowell School is, the main sports fields are by the main road. There's no reason that I see that that school can't be pushed a little bit closer to Meeting House. It would accommodate the neighborhood. I'm not sure what you get into here, so if I'm going too far,
Nope, you're
please
fine.
let me know. But if that home was pushed, if the school building was pushed closer to Meeting House, you would have better runoff issues as well. The community around the neighbors wouldn't be having that in their face as much. You know, it'd be more aesthetically pleasing. And does it really need to be 3 stories? I'm not sure. We want to have the space for our children to get the education and have the new experiences and the new school and all it has to offer, but does it need to be 3 stories to get that new space for them? We also have issues of runoff water. Right now, it does, she was saying it goes into the Pennypack Creek. That's an environmental issue right there. And I know right where they're proposing that school is natural springs are under there. So the infiltration levels, I'm not sure what they're going to be. It'd be interesting to see what they come back with when they said they were doing testing this week, and I did see them up there. How quickly it's filling up, especially by the church where the proposed teacher parking spaces are in that area, and the front entrance of the building, that will be the new front entrance of the building, is also an area where there's natural springs. So we're talking about footer changes, expenses that we didn't know were going to be here, but now we're going to have increase in budgets because we now have to deal with water under the building. And also the blending with its environment and making it more aesthetically pleasing to those around it. The stormwater management also, those homes on Garden Avenue, we already get a run down from the hill on Garden, because it's a steep hill coming down Garden Avenue. So if you take Garden Avenue all the way down to the bottom and you have Leary Drive and the bottom of Summer Avenue, they also get a lot of runoff already from the field and the tops of the roads. The storm drainage is a huge concern there. We used to have Horsham Township water person on our street, and he had tried to make some changes, but this was probably 40 years ago, and it still wasn't enough to help, but he tried. So then, we have to take into consideration now, with the stormwater on Upland Avenue, we're going to add sidewalks, and we're probably going to have to widen the road a little bit to accommodate buses getting in and out of places maybe, if things get changed. So even if they do change the layout a little bit, things to consider are the widening of the road, sidewalks that are going in, and the traffic flow. Right now the traffic isn't going to increase, and we don't really have too much concern of them coming in on Meeting House Road because it's better than the traffic on 611 that Hollowell would experience. And I'm not sure what the variance is where they're I don't know if they're asking for a variance of where they can actually build, where the building envelope is, if they're allowed to build there, or they're asking for a variance on that as well. And I'm not digging, I don't know enough about information about it to know whether they're within the building envelope or not. There may be also trying to blend the community that's around it, and yes, we want an improvement for our community and for our children to learn and grow in, and so we welcome this new plan, a new school for our children. It's great. They need a new space, but let's think about the community that's around it, and maybe we can make some changes to the layout to make it more friendly for the community and also for the children on those playing fields. The soccer ball goes, hit an 8-inch fence, somebody can hit a grand slam, right? That ball goes out into Meeting House Road. Putting children more at a spot where they are going to be thinking of running into the road instead of running into the homes. That's also another consideration. And so I also ask that you do consider the height of the building and the aesthetics and the environment.
Thank you.
Thank
So it seems like the main issue that you both have is the water. I mean, there's others, but it seems like what I'm hearing is the runoff and
the height.
and
The
the height,
runoff and
yeah.
the height, the height. And
The
being
building
close
is going to,
Right. So
and it's going to.
a lot of this will be addressed in land development, in the land development process.
Okay.
And as Eric had mentioned earlier, in Horsham, we're one of the toughest, if not the toughest, when it comes to stormwater management. We put the onus on the developers to really do a good job with the stormwater. So what you're seeing today, and what you're hearing with the water running off the property into the stream, all that stuff it has to be addressed by when they develop this property. And it has to be, it's going to have to meet our standards. So that's one of the things we discussed, and one of the reasons why we decided to hold off tonight on any kind of approvals, just to make sure we understand, so that you can understand what the final results are going to be. And at the end of the day, we've done a lot of projects, not as big as this, but bigger projects, shopping centers and whatnot, where it's always a big issue with runoff and stormwater, and we've always come out ahead with the results. So I feel confident that we're going to get there, and that you should be happy with those results. I think they'll do a good job. The other issues, height, something again, it's going to be on the design and what they need versus the space they have. So again, that gets worked on through land development as well.
Okay, is that a meeting we can go to, land development, or is that something that?
All the meetings are
Land
open to the
development's
public here,
a public
absolutely,
meeting,
yes.
okay.
Yep, and you can come through the entire process.
Okay.
just one more thing that I would like to say is Mr. Nesbitt had said, everybody comes here with these grandiose things and, you find out later it's not so much. I came to a zoning board meeting when Milton Avenue was being built, and I talked to the engineer, and the engineer had to go back again and come back. Oh, everything was still fine. They put a retention basin in. Do you know after Ida was not one drop of water in that retention basin? That retention basin was empty and somebody could mow it the next day. So, goes to show that it's not always correct.
That was long before us.
I know.
You don't make those kind of mistakes.
I know, but I'm just saying.
And the point I was making, just so we're clear, the point I was making is
I understand.
they are going to improve the stormwater, and every land development says they will, and they do, and we require them to. But
It's
in
not
order
always
for us to
perfect.
make sure that we get it right the first time, we need more information. And that's why we're taking a pause tonight. We didn't just rubber stamp something and say, yeah, go at it.
And I do
That was my
appreciate
point.
due
Just don't,
diligence.
I don't want you to think people are here pulling the wool over our eyes.
No, but I'm just saying that, sometimes you come and you try to tell people, this is the way I've lived here, this is the way it is, and people don't want to listen.
Trust me, it's very frustrating to see a dry basin in a big storm.
It is.
And I know they exist.
Right, and there was one.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
So just
Well, hold on.
hold on, feel confident that we're going to work our way through this. And, we do know that the old school is a disaster. it's falling apart, being held together with duct tape and bandages. So we do have to go this direction.
We understand that.
And whatever they end up getting, it's going to be beautiful and wonderful, and it may not please everybody. Most of these projects never do. But they're certainly going to do their best. I trust you, Will. And we're going to do our best to make sure that they do their best.
Okay, thank you. I
Okay?
appreciate
Feel
that.
free to come back at any of the meetings. They're all posted, Bill.
Yes, sir.
Our agendas are posted on the website. You can see and follow along the way, and feel free to come back.
Okay. And I thank you once again for taking your time.
Thank you for due diligence.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, anybody else? Guess that's it.
That's it for the middle school.
That's it for the middle school. You guys are free to go if you like. All right, let's see if I can find the next item. So we have a zoning hearing board applications, Dennis Seckelson and Gary Long.
So this is 433 Horsham Road. They were in front of you recently. They are the antique dealer, which took a section of the building. They were granted the variances they needed. It was for parking, but condition was put on them that they ever expanded or changed. They needed to go back before the zoning hearing board. So this is Horsham Road. This is Highland Avenue. The building we're talking about is here. This is the Philly Pretzel Factory takeout building here. They did move into this section here, but the graphic artist is relocating and moving out, so they would like to take the space of the graphic artist. This is his apartment upstairs, but they're not taking that. They're just taking the ground floor. So they do want to do an expansion to their antique business, and they are here to present their application.
Just as a brief reminder, I pulled your conditions from when they were here in March. Condition number 1, the use of the property shall be as is described in the application, and the building shall not be open to the public without appointment. 2, any change in the ownership or the change in the use has to come back here. 3, there should be no outdoor storage of antiques or personal property. And 4, the applicant shall paint lines delineating parking spaces.
Okay, fire away.
Yes, I'm Scott Semish for the applicant, and basically the two people have presented my presentation. So I'll just end by saying that we planned, or would like to do exactly the same thing that we did at when we got approval May 11th of this year. And we agreed to all the same conditions. We have 3 people working there now, and with this addition, we'll have a total of 4 people working. So it's going to be a pretty benign use.
It's glad to see a business doing well.
Yes.
Very good. Anybody have any comments, questions? Okay.
Would you like to recommend the imposition of the same conditions?
Same conditions as he agreed to, yes.
Yeah. Right.
So we'll go neutral on your application.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much. Appreciate your help.
Don't you wish you were first tonight?
Yeah.
All right, next is Robert and Laura Hannum.
Okay, so this is Victoria and Jarrett. It's an impervious coverage issue that they want to put an addition on. This is Victoria Lane, this is Jarrett Road here, so it's a corner property. This is the house, this is the driveway off Victoria, and what they would like to do is put an addition on for a garage, 1-story garage addition. So they would have a 2-car garage. What it involves is impervious coverage. They are allowed 25%. They are at 24.9%. And with this addition, they would go to 27.7%, which is below the 3% threshold that council usually likes people to be in. The other issue is front yard setback. As council knows, corner lots are considered 2 front yards. To them, this is their side yard, but to our zoning code, it's their front yard too. They have 2 front yards. They have 50 feet for a front yard. So if they put this addition on, they go down to 38 feet 9 inches for this yard. Just so council's knowledge, if they didn't have a corner lot, they could put this on by right. So if it wasn't corner lot, they would be able to put this addition on. It would not be an issue. So
Recommendation?
Staff is neutral.
Okay. Okay, we'll go neutral. Next is subdivision for 130 Holly Drive.
130 Holly Drive, is the applicant here?
Yeah.
Okay. So Holly Drive is a lot line change, and just to orient council, and then they can do their presentation. So this is Holly Drive here. This is 130 Holly Drive. This is the Maple Avenue right here. This is the property on Maple. Currently, the property goes all the way back to here. It's kind of very odd shape. You can see these very odd shaped backyard. So what they would like to do is do a lot line change, and then this square here, the shaded square, would be transferred to 130 Holly. Maple Avenue, as you can see, has a very extensive area. They can still, the current owner or a future owner could do a lot back here without going to the zoning hearing board, so their property is not being shrunk to the point where it would be hard for any current or future owner to do anything on the Maple Avenue property, and I will turn it over to the applicant.
I own the other property.
Oh, you're...
Okay. Address for the record.
Bob Showalter, civil engineer for the applicant. Been a long night. I'll keep it sweet and simple. You've heard what the presentation is about. We received reviews from the various consultants. The principal one would have been from Gilmore and Associates. There were 10 items in the letter. 8 of them are will comply. The other 2 are waivers. And we were at the planning commission. They recommended approval. So that's my story. I'll keep it short and sweet. We had reviews from Montgomery County Planning Commission. There was no support of the application. Van Riker looked at it. His only comment was make new deeds. And McCluskey and Favor looked at it. Their comment was street trees, but there's enough existing on the roads that you really don't need them. So
there's 2 waivers?
Yeah,
2 waivers are what, for 400-foot perimeter, topo, and the construction and widening of the 2 roads.
Okay.
They're all existing roads.
Questions, comments? Sounds like you're in good shape.
So we'll come back at another meeting.
Another meeting, and you'll get your approval, Rico?
I'll
Yes.
prepare a resolution and I'll send it to you, Bob.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. Wish you were first, too.
Bob, it should be the second Wednesday in October.
Second Wednesday, October? Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we gotta work harder to get these in the right order.
Please.
Next are the considerations of waivers for land development to Horsham River Sewer.
You heard that you had the request at your last meeting from the Water and Sewer Authority. I had this at one agenda item, but if you look on your motions, each one of these are individual properties and parcels, so you have to approve them. You have to have 3 individual motions for the waivers.
I move to approve the resolution as proposed, approving a waiver of land development with conditions for the Horsham Water and Sewer Authority well number 10, Rumor Drive, for the construction of PFAS treatment facility.
Second. Moved in second, is a roll call vote?
Mr. Gallagher, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Hill Milborn, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Nesbitt, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Whiteside, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
And Mr. McCouch, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
I move to approve the resolution as proposed, approving a waiver of land development with conditions for the Horsham Water and Sewer Authority, well 17, Horsham Road, for the construction of PFAS treatment facility.
Second.
Moved in second, and again, a roll call vote?
Mr. Gallagher, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Hill Milborn, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Nesbitt, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Whiteside, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
And Mr. McCouch, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, next is our snow and ice agreement.
No, you have one more.
21. Did I miss one?
Well, 21.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I move to approve the resolution as proposed, approving a waiver of land development with conditions for the Horsham Water and Sewer Authority, well 21 Babylon Road, for the construction of a PFAS treatment facility.
Second.
Moved in second, and a roll call vote?
Mr. Gallagher, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Hill Milborn, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Nesbitt, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Whiteside, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
And Mr. McCouch, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Now we can do the Montgomery County Snow and Ice Agreement.
So as council's aware, there's 2 county roads in Horsham Township, Butler Pike from Welsh Road to Limekiln Pike, and Horsham Road from Blair Mill Road to Route 611. And the county, we enter into a 3-year contract with the county for snow and ice. So they upped it a little bit to $2,925.60 per year, per calendar year. This would be a 3-year contract agreement with the county.
You have a motion?
I move to approve the snow and ice removal agreement with Montgomery County as proposed for the winter seasons of 2021 through 2022 and 2022 through 2023, and then 2023 through 2024.
Second.
Moved in second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Next is the sign ordinance.
I move to introduce the ordinance as proposed, amending the zoning ordinance to amend the definition of sign, regulations for signs, and attachment 2 of the zoning ordinance.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. This is a roll call vote.
Mr. Gallagher, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Hill Milborn, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Nesbitt, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Whiteside, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
And Mr. McCouch, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Last item is to set a time and place for a conditional use hearing.
This is just a conditional use application from the Water and Sewer Authority. They have to cross Park Creek on Davis Grove Road to do a water main extension to connect people who have contaminated PFAS private wells.
We have a motion.
I move to adopt the resolution as proposed, establishing a time and place for a public hearing on the Horsham Water and Sewer Authority, Davis Grove Road, conditional use application, Wednesday, October 13, 2021 at 7:45 p.m. in the Horsham Township Municipal Building.
Second.
Been moved in second. Is a roll call vote.
Mr. Gallagher, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Hill Milborn, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Nesbitt, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Mr. Whiteside, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
And Mr. McCouch, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Meeting adjourned.